The United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. For centuries, this country has represented hope and opportunity for millions looking to build a new life. But a decade after 9/11, are Muslims still welcome here? I'm Sam Farah. I come from Lebanon, where the different religions fought a vicious civil war. In a country where freedom of worship is enshrined in law, I want to find out whether America's Muslims are now seen as an enemy within.
I just don't agree with their beliefs.
That is pure, unadulterated evil.
I was born in this country, so what country are they talking about for me to go back to?
I'm Karen Zarindast. I grew up in Iran, where Islam is imposed on the population by the state. For me, America always symbolized freedom, hope, and choice. But what is it like today for those who choose to follow Islam?
I don't think they're necessarily concerned that I pray 5 times a day. They're more concerned on, are you gonna, blow up? Are you gonna kill me, bro?
We're just regular Americans.
Together, Sam and I have traveled the length and breadth of the United States. From Manhattan Island,
she's the urban city hijabi with pizzazz,
to Houston, Texas. From the smokestacks of Detroit to the palm trees of California.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
We've been meeting Muslims from all walks of life to find out what it means to be a Muslim in America today.
Orange County, California. A Muslim charity's fundraising dinner is surrounded by right-wing activists. Their message of bigotry and intolerance is one that many may find deeply offensive. This is what Islamophobia looks like today. For the Muslim families caught in the middle, it was a terrifying experience.
When we were walking in there, right, for the first time in my life, I felt that something physical might have happened. At one point, it felt like someone was going to throw something, be it a stick, a rock, or, someone could come out and point a weapon at you.
They held up signs and said stuff like, "Get off of our land," and they also called us terrorists. I was born in this country, I live in this country, and I also go to school in this country. So what country are they talking about for me to go back to?
Earlier that day, local politicians had held a rally to protest against the Muslim event.
Those who wish to take our country away from us can be seen all around us. Some can be clearly identified as the enemy.
They call it multiculturalism, and it has paralyzed too many of our fellow citizens to make the critical judgment we need to make to prosper as a society.
I have a wonderful 19-year-old son who's a United States Marine. As a matter of fact, I know quite a few Marines who will be very happy to help these terrorists to an early meeting in paradise.
To actually be on the receiving end of the hate, it's horrible, And at this stage in my life, because I'm a mother, and I have to care for my children, and I worry about their future. What more is to come?
I love the United States. My family even moved here from Iran. What happened in Orange County was really shocking. I wanted to know if this was an isolated incident or part of the daily reality for Muslims living here.
Back in the 80s, when I was studying here, being an American Muslim simply wasn't an issue. So how has this country changed since 9/11? The upsurge in anti-Muslim feeling started here, at Ground Zero. September 11th, 2001. 10 years ago, the United States suffered the most deadly terrorist attack in its history. America went on the offensive.
This nation is at war with Islamic fascists who will use any means to hurt our nation.
A decade later, Osama bin Laden is dead, but the war on terror grinds on. Back where it all started, we were allowed into Ground Zero to look at the reconstruction firsthand. It was an emotional experience, visiting the exact spot where 3,000 innocent people had died. For many Americans, this is a sacred place, and 9/11 has defined their country's relationship with Islam.
What happened here 10 years ago means a lot to the rest of the world, means a lot to Muslims who live in this country and to Muslims who live elsewhere. It's just got so much significance.
And this is where the whole debate about you're with us or you're against us, this is where it all started.
Yeah.
Building the new tower, bigger and better than before, is a matter of national pride. But the psychological and emotional scars left by that dreadful September day are taking much longer to heal. For some, the words Islam and terrorism have become intertwined.
And 10 years on, many American Muslims say that, for them, things are actually getting worse. This is Republican Congressman Peter King from Long Island. Earlier this year, he started a series of security hearings into homegrown Islamic extremism in the United States.
Al-Qaeda is attempting to radicalize the Muslim American community. So they are now recruiting from within the country, and they're looking for people who are under the radar screen, people who are living here legally, people who are citizens, people who have no known terrorist activity.
King says ordinary American Muslims are not doing enough to combat terrorism.
I will have people from the Muslim community who will say how when they went to law enforcement, how imams attempted to stop them, how they were threatened when they did want to report. When the FBI began investigations, how the imams in their mosques told them not to cooperate.
Karen and I traveled out of New York to the suburb of Long Island for Friday prayers. We wanted to ask Muslims in Peter King's own constituency about his accusations.
There was an amazing diversity in the congregation. 36 different nationalities, from Arabs to Chinese, were present here. They realized they were a community under extreme scrutiny.
And that radicalization that they're blaming on us is not the radicalization of the Muslims, but the radicalization is coming from outside against the Muslims.
Many of the locals were unhappy that their congressman was focusing on the Muslim community as a potential problem.
To single out one religion or one religious community and entirely put the focus on them, I feel is unfair.
Where's the proof? Where's the beef? It's baseless accusations.
Are people gonna, look at me different? Am I gonna get attacked? You're always worried about your safety.
I feel afraid about my kids.
The congregation in Long Island seemed stunned to be accused of disloyalty. But was it just a sign of the times? Back in New York, I met with Steve Rendell, a media analyst who monitors the portrayal of Islam. He told me he was seeing a lot of prejudice.
There is a torrent of Islamophobia in the United States, coming from talk radio, coming from right-wing cable television, coming from this sort of the fever swamps of the right-wing blogosphere.
Not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim.
Islamic radicals, the new Nazis, want you dead.
I think that both Islamophobes and the politicians who exploit anti-Muslim bias in the United States do conflate being Muslim with being a terrorist. This is the power of their message. This is what puts their opponents on the defensive. It's really very similar to anti-Semitism or anti-Catholic bigotry. Bigotry always works the same way. It's dehumanizing members of a group and assigning to them negative traits.
I've always thought one of the best things about America is its guaranteed freedom of speech enshrined in the Constitution. For better or worse, that means both sides in an argument have the right to say what they want about each other. Here, amidst the neon of New York's Times Square, we found someone whose response to bigotry is to encourage people to laugh at it.
Look, if you hate all blacks, all Jews, all Arabs, all Latinos, you're a racist. But if you're afraid of certain people in certain situations, you're just a white person. And I'll be brutally honest, you see 4 Arab guys at a deli in New York speaking Arabic, you don't care. You see 4 Arab guys about to board your flight speaking Arabic to each other. You run into a black guy, you used to be afraid of a protection event.
Comedians like Arab-American Dean Obeidallah use humor to highlight and undermine intolerance. He told me he thinks anti-Muslim feeling is at a new high and has even become acceptable in mainstream society.
I think it's probably the most challenging time that I've ever experienced. There's the most people I've ever seen demonizing Muslims, and they use the term Arab and Muslim interchangeably. People no longer is it the extreme right that was doing it a short time after 9/11. Now it's become part of mainstream discourse. If you make a comment about blacks that's racist, you will probably be fired or suspended from your job. If you make a comment about Jewish people that's anti-Semitic, you will probably lose your job or be suspended. If you make a comment about Muslims, you don't get fired. In fact, your ratings go up, you sell more books. It's become a boutique industry.
Boom, chicka boom, 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 boom.
Back outside in Times Square was Brother Dash, an African-American Muslim poet from New Jersey.
Struggle, struggle, love and hate. Argue, argue, just debate. You said this, well, you said that. Tit for tat and tit for tat. Boom, chicka boom.
He told me that bizarrely, the election of Barack Obama had also increased the negative debate around Muslims.
What has happened with the election of Obama, you cannot be an overt racist. You can't come after Obama on him being black. What seems to be okay is you can be quote-unquote racist overtly towards Muslims. So you can attack Obama on the basis of him having had a Muslim father who ended up becoming an atheist, actually, him growing up for a few years in Indonesia, and then you just sort of stoke these underlying issues with Obama, and you use the Muslim thing as your excuse, your way to vent that racism in a way that is quote-unquote acceptable.
Dash told me that regardless of the debate about Obama, Islam and racism, there's every reason to be positive about being both an American and a Muslim.
My ancestors helped to build this country, just as many others have helped to build this country. So what you see in Times Square, to me, we helped build this. We helped make this possible.
I admired Dash's optimism. One of the things I love most about America is the sense of hope and belief in the ability to make something of yourself. Elif Kavachi is a Manhattan-based fashion designer who has created a range of high-end Islamic couture. To practice their Islamic religion more freely, her family moved to the United States from Turkey.
Turkey is a Muslim country, however, because church and state are separate, kind of like France, you're not allowed to practice your religion at school or in a governmental building.
So you moved out of Turkey to the US so you could practice Islam?
Exactly. We migrated so we can practice our religion with freedom in the US.
And can you?
Yes. Yes, the land of the free, we can. If I choose to wear my hijab and it's not a problem at work, at school, anywhere you go in the US, they respect you for your individuality and your beliefs.
All right, Fatima, look at me.
When I lived in Iran, I associated the hijab with dark colors and lack of choice. But at a fashion shoot in Central Park, Elif's girls were Muslim, loud and proud.
This photo shoot is about the urban city hijabi. She's ready to go out in the city in her nice, stylish hijabi clothes with pizzazz.
Okay, now here we go.
Her business is booming. In fact, Muslim women in the United States have levels of success and visibility unmatched elsewhere. Elif says this is because the educational and business opportunities for women are much greater here than in majority Muslim states.
The US was more of an option compared to moving to an Islamic country. Still, you have to face lots of discrimination and other issues.
Elif found economic and religious freedom in Manhattan. But New York City is one of the largest, most liberal and ethnically diverse cities in the United States. And most Americans do not live in places like this.
So how is life different for Muslims living in a small town in the Midwest? Out west near the tri-state border with Kentucky and Indiana lies the city of Carni in southern Illinois, population 5,500. It's a typical slice of small-town USA, self-styled as the place where northern vigor meets southern hospitality. Agriculture, coal and small oil fields provide the main sources of income.
Sure is.
The people here say they believe in hard work, family, community and religion. The religion in question being Christianity. There are no less than 17 churches in Carni. But in amongst the community of the faithful is a lone Muslim family. Dr. Zahid Saqib has been a family doctor since arriving here from Pakistan 32 years ago. He's a pillar of the local community.
He's a friend and neighbor as well as a doctor.
He's well respected in this community, and we're glad to have him here.
He's just like one of us.
In a small town like Carmi, I think people have been extremely nice to me. It's a country of immigrants, and I think that most of the people do remember that. But occasionally, I do have to remind them that, yes, I'm an immigrant, just like your father or great-grandfather or the one before that came to this country. And he struggled, but he made it. And I am one of those people that came a little bit later. So occasionally I have to remind them about that when they get, I'm an American, you're not.
Dr. Saqib's wife, Bushra, took us on a tour of Carmi's commercial hub, Main Street.
So when you walk in this town, you see churches everywhere. As a Muslim family from Pakistan, what's it been like living here?
Actually, most of the people have been very welcoming. Actually, I've been invited to the churches a lot of times, to come speak about Islam, about Pakistan. So this feels like home now.
Bushra has raised 6 children. Her conservative values meant that she, like many Muslims in the United States, was a natural Republican Party voter. But after September 11, 2001, all that changed.
America got attacked, 9/11 happened.
Yes.
Why did you change from Republican to Democrat?
But see, I felt like Republicans were not accepting of Muslims, they were demonizing Islam. I feel like I'm defending my religion all the time, to people. I worry about the children, how every day Islam bashing is going to do to them. Do they want to be stand-up Muslims, Can they handle all the pressure?
And the pressure has certainly come out into the open during some heated encounters over the building of new mosques. Most famously, a scheme to build an Islamic center near the site of Ground Zero ran into virulent opposition. But such scenes have been repeated across the country.
Islam is not a religion?
It's a political organization.
I just don't agree with their beliefs. You don't want to see a mosque?
Hell no!
The mosques are used to call its members to insurrection and jihad.
Carmi's nearest mosque is some 50 miles away across the state line in Evansville, Indiana. Local Muslims, including the Saqibs, had designed and built it themselves 8 months ago. It's their pride and joy.
And it serves how many families?
Approximately 200 families in the tri-state area.
Some Muslims think that this is a hard time to be a Muslim in America. This is a hard time to build a mosque like this. How do you feel about that? Is this a hard time to be a Muslim?
We thought so, but I think we are pleasantly surprised at the community in Evansville. And they have really not objected to it. Many groups come in, school, children, college students, all of them. And if they don't know about the real Islam and they equate terrorism with Islam, then it's our job here to educate them. And the best way to educate them is to know them and let them know you. And if we do that, then their prejudices are going to be much less.
The Islamic community here is small. Perhaps one reason they choose to reach out to their neighbors. But Muslims tend to favor large families. The Saqibs themselves have 6 children, and so the demographics are changing. There are some very large Muslim communities in the United States. The biggest of all is near Detroit, in the city of Dearborn, Michigan. About 30,000 of the local population are Arab Americans, and most of them are Shia Muslims who can trace their roots back to Lebanon and Iraq.
It was all a far cry from Carni. The Muslim population here was in the tens of thousands and much more assertive. My guide here was Ron Ayman, an ex-cop whose grandfather originally came here from southern Lebanon. To me, Dearborn seemed like a slice of my home country, transported halfway across the world.
Ron, I feel like I'm in the Lebanon of my childhood. All this food, this is brilliant.
Some of these dishes are prepared the same way they've been prepared in Lebanon for over 100 years.
Ron told me that while there was strength in numbers, the growing size and assertiveness of the Arab American population nowadays had brought more scrutiny, much of it negative.
Yeah, things were better back then because we were pretty much just a shadowy part of the population. Now we stand out. Now there's Dearborn, Michigan.